Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. I have some great news for you guys today. I'm sure you guys have already heard. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to record this immediately upon the news dropping. But Payton Sandfort, as expected, at least for me, excuse me, that is what I predicted would be the case. Has decided to return to the Iowa Hawkeyes for 1 year of eligibility, one more year of eligibility. And, I think that this ultimately, I'll just dive right into it. I think ultimately this is the right decision. Payton, his game got exposed a little bit at the combine. His stock was no longer nearly as high. I posted the most recent video that I did predicting whether he would stay or go. I posted just to provide an example of how his draft stock had dropped. I posted a video or a article from Bleacher Report that had hit the before the combine and after the combine prediction, and Payton Sandfort had dropped all the way from 37th, nearly a predicted first round draft pick. 37th is so good that Payton, had he done extraordinarily well, hell, maybe not even extraordinarily, just like average to good at the combine, he could have vaulted himself to a late first round pick, honestly, for one of these playoff contending teams that kind of have a throwaway first round draft pick and they're looking for immediate impact, immediate help. He could have done that, but he did have a poor performance, which he himself admitted at the combine. So ultimately, I believe that this is the right choice. I'm very happy that he's chosen to stay at Iowa, because that's the other element to this is Payton did not have to return to Iowa. He could have not only gone to the NBA and kept his name in the NBA draft process or just the NBA draft list, or he could have chosen to take more money at a higher program like North Carolina, a Duke or something like that. Because believe me, if you don't think in this day and age that somebody like Payton Sandfort had other programs texting him, asking him if he was secure in his commitment to the Iowa Hawkeyes, you're mistaken. And I said after the season ended that Iowa's number one, and I wasn't necessarily predicting how high Payton Sandfort's name was going to climb on the draft boards. I thought for sure he'd be returning to Iowa regardless. Their number one job was to hold on to Josh Dix and Owen Freeman, because the top three names that Iowa had from that was primed for poaching from other big time schools was Josh Dix, Owen Freeman, and Payton Sandfort. So this is great news. Iowa fans should be happy. Like I said, I think that this makes sense all the way around. To me, 247 Sports dropped a Big Ten post transfer portal preseason ranking, and they had Iowa at 12th. Now, the thing is that really what I read, it sounded like it was with Payton Sandfort returning, they are 12th. That's what I took it to say, but I could be wrong on that. It could have been 12th, like without Payton Sandfort type of thing, but I took it to be a with. So to me, the roster that Iowa has, and obviously I'll talk more about this later in the year as the season approaches. Obviously, with football season around the corner, I'm probably going to stop talking about Iowa basketball so much The only time I'll probably talk about them until right before the season, a month before the season, is if they have commitments or departures and things like that. But I think Iowa, to me, is realistically right now with the current pieces that they have and my familiarity with Iowa, I think they are somewhere between 7th and 10th. I think that that's where they're at, with the ability to go even higher depending on the improvements from some of the younger guys, and how quickly the transfers can come in and contribute immediately. So I would put them safely 7 to 10 with Payton Sandfort returning. Like, how I view them is they are an NCAA tournament team, but safely they're one of the last Big Ten NCAA tournament teams. On the high end, I think Iowa could be one of the top 5 teams to compete in the Big Ten. They have a really nice squad, and like every single year, because Iowa is not a sexy program, even though they have an amazing offense, they never or rarely get selected to be top 7. And the past 5-6 years, they have outperformed their preseason expectations. So, and the thing that a lot of people are missing about this Iowa team is not only did they get 2 really nice pieces in the transfer portal, but they have a legitimate NBA draft prospect in Payton Sandfort. And I believe this time next year, when the season has gotten underway, they will have 3 NBA caliber players in Josh Dix and Owen Freeman on top of Payton Sandfort. So, obviously there's a ton of, well, if this happens, then this, if this happens, then this. Let's read this a little bit. This is from 247 Sports. Expectations for Iowa basketball have risen over the past 24 hours. Iowa City rejoiced when Hawkeye forward Payton Sandfort announced that he would be coming back to the Hawkeyes. It came down to the final 90 minutes prior to the deadline, which honestly, guys, I'm going to comment on this. I don't think that that's accurate. I really don't. I think Payton Sandfort knew for a while that his best chances would be to return to Iowa, especially after his combine. But I think his heart wanted to go to the NBA. He really wanted to play in the NBA and get drafted, which I understand. What athlete does not want that? But whereas the article is kind of saying the opposite, that, which you guys will see, that his heart was telling him to play at Iowa, and kind of outside circumstances were pushing him, sort of thing, to the NBA. So I think after the combine, he pretty much knew that his best option was to come back to Iowa. It came down to the final 90 minutes prior to the deadline, but Sandfort said on Thursday that it wasn't his fault. Okay. Most of it was out of my control, Sandfort said via Zoom. My Wi-Fi wasn't working on my plane. It kind of went out on my plan. We ended up being up in the air longer than we were supposed to because of storms. Then I got there and had 5-minute layover, so I didn't really have time. I literally just posted my decision when I landed in Des Moines. It was one of the best, most stressful experiences of Sandfort's life. He mentioned that there was about an 18-day span where he was staying in hotels. The Waukee native said that the travel schedule was no joke, and it was everything he could have ever imagined. It feels like I've been on the phone every second that I've been actually on the ground talking with my family, trying to figure it out. My gut feeling was always to go back to college. I think that's a better way to describe it. His heart wanted to go to the NBA, but his gut was saying to go back to, his more realistic thoughts were telling him to go back to Iowa. There was actually a lot of very positive feedback from NBA teams in a pick range. I'm sure that that's the case. But at the same time, a lot of you have to take it with a grain of salt. It's like every business. Every business, you're going to have people shooting some good up your rear to get you to feel good about yourself and be excited about the organization and the team and stuff like that. But obviously, of course, most of it is true because, Payton Sandfort is a legitimate NBA draft prospect. It wasn't an open and shut case for Sandfort. There were plenty of NBA teams that would have loved to have him in their system. As with most things in life, there were other factors. Peyton's brother, Price, is going into his sophomore year at Iowa, and it is one final chance for them to play alongside one another. I just didn't know if I could leave behind that feeling of regret and not getting to play with Price for a year and not seeing this thing out because of what I believe that we've helped build at Iowa. For Sandfort, he's always been self-aware of his game. He knows that teams identify him as a sniper of the team with a lightning quick release. The undisputed leader of next year's team garnered a ton of great feedback from the NBA and has a few things that he's going to work on next season. A lot of it was centered around athleticism, Sandfort said. They know that's not what's going to get me drafted or makes me special. A lot of it is continuing to shooting on the move. Obviously, the NBA three-point line is a lot further back, so shooting from deep ranges and being comfortable getting into your shot in a lot of different ways is important. That's true, but I really do actually think that Payton Sandfort, given his lack of athleticism, is actually oddly good at shooting on the move and shooting in strange body positions. Sandfort's leadership, scoring prowess, and overall impact are a welcome addition to next year's team. Iowa expected last season to be more of a growing year, but that's not going to be the case in 2024. The Hawks will return Josh Dix, Owen Freeman, Brock Harding, and several other contributors while adding Morehead State point guard Drew Thelwell and Manhattan's Sador Traore. So that's pretty much it, guys. So the last thing I want to say is, what are my expectations for Payton Sandfort for next year? Well, I already talked about in my previous video what he has to work on. He does have to improve his athleticism just slightly. As it said in this article, teams know that that's not what his calling card is, but he still does need to improve it slightly. He needs to continue to improve his ball handling. He needs to find ways to grow his toolbox, find ways to score the basketball if his shot is not falling. Because while the NBA always needs shooters, if you can be a guy that is extremely clever and has an extremely high IQ and can find ways to uncannily put the ball in the basket especially when your shot is not falling, you're going to have a spot on an NBA roster. So, but the main thing is the athleticism. He is really skilled. Again, yes, can he work on his pull-up jumper and shooting on the move? Yes, but overall, I think his ability to do that is above average. That is not the thing that he needs to work on the most. The most is defense, ball handling, and athleticism. Those are the biggest things. So I'm trying to find the preseason basketball predictions because I wanted to kind of for sure say where Iowa is at. So let me see if I can find that real quick for you guys. So here it is, guys. Let's go ahead. Iowa is fairly far down. I really do think that Iowa has plenty of talent on the roster. The thing is that when it comes to the Big Ten or a Power 5 level group, every team, and Fran McCaffrey always says this, every team has talent. And it from team to team, it is the smallest of margins that separate teams. But just to put it very bluntly, I think Iowa definitely has enough talent to compete in the upper 6 of the Big Ten. Um, do I foresee them per se being like a top 3 Big Ten team? Maybe not. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they do have talent. Like I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I don't think that that's as likely. Now, top 6, I can see that. They definitely do have the talent for that. So here's Iowa at 12th. And look, they did have Payton Sandfort here. The scoop. If Iowa can get Payton Sandfort back for another season as projected, the Hawkeyes have a big 3 that can play with anybody. Dick, Sandfort, and Freeman will be highly productive, but Iowa's player development will be the ultimate pivot point in the crowded middle of the Big Ten standings. If Harding, Price, Sandfort, Dembele, or Traore explode into no doubt dudes, Iowa could vault past more than a few clubs, which I totally agree. The only difference between myself and where they have Iowa is I would put Iowa on the low end more at like 7 to 10, 7 through 10. Keep an eye on the Thelwell edition. The Morehead State transfer. Point guard needs to prove himself on the defensive end at the Big Ten level, or Harding could take his spot and run away with it. If Sandfort stays in the NBA draft, the conversation around Iowa will change significantly. Which I agree. Had Sandfort not come back, Iowa would definitely have a tougher road. And we could definitely be looking at like the first legitimate down year that Iowa has had in 7 years. But also, again, what I keep telling you guys is the young talent that Iowa has is really, really strong. And it's impossible to predict the growth that young players are going to have from year 1 to year 2. It's impossible to predict. Josh Dick started to come on towards the end of the year. By next year, could he vaunt himself to a 15 point a game score? Of course. So, but you just don't know. So lastly, like I said, what do I expect Payton Sandfort to be? Well, I think Payton Sandfort's baseline for next year is like like at the low end, at bare minimum would be 15 to 17 point score average. Pretty much the same as it was last year, plus or minus 1 or 2 points. On the high end, I could see Payton Sandfort averaging 22 to 24 points a game. That's obviously not as likely. I think the sweet spot is more like 17 and a half to 20. I think Payton Sandfort can average 17 and a half to 20 points a night. If he does that, Iowa will be in good shape. All right, guys, like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. DBAP, don't be a pussy with all facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. Love you guys. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye.